are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to the Great Garment Graphics webinar. Today we're going to talk about heat printing accessories. My name is Juliette Calmetta and I work with Stalls ID Direct, and I am the training coordinator here. I've been with the company for 8 years now, and just talking about a popular topic, heat printing accessories, which really are the tools that you need for successful production. Any of you handymans out there would know if you didn't have a hammer, you wouldn't be able to, drive that nail into the board. So just like any other project, you can't really get done if you don't have the right accessories or the tools that you need to heat apply something like an odd item correctly, plus the everyday stuff that you need to heat apply. Every time you lock your press down, basically, you're going to need an accessory. So we're going to talk about things that you need just starting out, plus some of you that are more familiar with heat printing, some accessories that you may not be familiar with that will help your business. And if you're looking on to expanding into cutting in-house or other things like that, producing in-house, then the accessories that you would need to start out your job. So the topics today is we're going to start out with just starting out. We're going to talk about heat printing, the heat press accessory essentials that you need to start your business. And then we're going to talk about the #1 cause of adhesion issues that would be caused by not having the right accessories in your job. We're going to talk about heat press accessories themselves and then other accessories. So if you're just starting out, here at Stalls ID we do have an accessory kit, which is pretty much a package thing that has everything that you need starting out with heat printing. And we're going to watch a lot of videos today. We made it really short videos. They're not like super long. It's not going to be super boring or anything. I mean, there's only so much you can show about a Teflon pillow, but some really quick videos that we made in preparation for this webinar that we have posted on YouTube, on our web pages as well, that just quickly shows you what the actual accessory is and how to use it. So throughout this webinar we are going to be watching some of those videos, and we're just going to kind of jump around on different accessories out there that you can use. So in the accessory kit, the essentials are a Teflon pillow, which we're going to learn about, which is something that creates an even surface for anything with heavy buttons, seams, or zippers. A print perfect pad, which is kind of made like at the bottom of your heat press right now. You have a rubber silicone pad on the bottom of there, and it's the same material that is made for that silicone, and it's made to actually raise the area. So if you're trying to work around a weird item like a heavy seam or a pocket or something that just isn't giving you the right pressure throughout the actual transfer, a heat print perfect pad is what you would use. A Teflon sheet, which a lot of you I'm sure is familiar with, you use it all the time, as well as Kraft paper. But one of the most popular questions that we have between those two, Teflon sheet and Kraft paper, is what's the difference between the two? So why would I use this versus the other? So we'll talk about that. And then a heat eraser. And is a heat eraser, is it really important? What does it do? It's such a little inexpensive accessory. Do I really need it? And you'll see that we're going to show a quick video starting out with the heat eraser that it is an essential accessory, especially if you're trying to speed up production time with anything that needs a cold peel or a cooler peel. You can't peel it right away. The heat eraser really does absorb that heat. So we're going to start out with that video. And it is a very quick one, I promise. So I'm going to just play the video, and then I'm just going to recap what's being said. So some transfers need to be peeled at a cool temperature after heat application, like this Cat glitter flake design. You can wait for it to cool down on its own or speed up the process with a heat eraser. Since it's made of wool, it absorbs the heat for a quicker cooling process. Simply rub the heat eraser on top of the cover sheet or CAD cut material before peeling. So it's simply just rub it on top of the transfer, the CAD cut transfer, or the cover sheet, and because it's wool, it absorbs that heat. So it's a nice accessory to have. Very inexpensive as well. And at this time, I'd just like to mention, if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to type them in the chat box, and we have Jody here going over all the questions, and she'll shout them out to me and I can answer them either after the webinar or if you have something on a particular subject that we're talking about. So the next topic we're going to talk about is Teflon cover sheets versus Kraft paper. What's the difference between the two? Well, they're both durable, but the Kraft paper, it does have an actual coating on it that keeps it from catching fire, basically. So it is considered a short-term or disposable cover sheet, but they last for a long time. It depends on what you're heat applying it, though, with. For example, the Teflon cover sheet, you can clean it off and use it over and over again. I mean, these things last for a long time. We've seen them around here for years. Usually they get cut up or, holes poked through them before they actually wear down. The Teflon cover sheet also causes a semi-gloss finish on some of the materials, which is kind of a nice sheen look that you would like on your designs. So if you're looking for that kind of look, then you'd want to go with the Teflon cover sheet. Or if you're looking for something that you want to have in the shop all the time, you don't want to have to worry about running out or it wearing out on you. You'd want to get a Teflon cover sheet, and they are within a good price range, and you can use it all the time. Kraft paper, like I said, has that protection on there to keep it from catching fire. Basically, it's not that Kraft paper that you find at craft stores. It is a special Kraft paper that is used with heat application, but it's mostly popular with CAD cut material, and CAD cut material is material with a Mylar carrier. So you can get pre-spaced products with it. We use our pre-spaced Player Perfect or pre-spaced text with it, and you cut it in a reverse image, and when you heat apply a lot of those, there tends to be a friction buildup between applications. So Kraft paper will help eliminate that friction buildup, so there won't be as much static in your work environment. It also needs to be used with some products. For example, intra-opaque transfer paper calls for Kraft paper. So depending on the application instructions, which you always want to keep an eye out for, it may specifically need a specific cover sheet, because you actually put this cover sheet right on top of intra-opaque transfer paper, which is paper that you can use in an inkjet printer and then heat apply into dark garments or even white garments, but it's a white-based media. And you put it right on top of there. So the Kraft paper needs to be peeled cool, so you could use a heat eraser on it or just let it cool on its own, but it keeps it from pulling up the actual transfer. Another purpose of Kraft paper is sublimated garments. Sublimated garments are made with gaseous inks, and the gaseous inks are heat activated. And because you buy like a soccer jersey that's a really deep color, for example, and when you bring your press down and heat apply it, the actual sublimated ink or the gaseous ink can actually surface your cover sheet, and Kraft paper kind of absorbs that ink. So it's not going to be good for like a whole bunch of different transfers. You may have to throw it away after a while or after each application, but you could, it does absorb that actual ink. And then also Kraft paper is very popular because it leaves a matte finish. The matte finish, as you can see in the picture, for example, if you put it on top of thermofilm, you will see, or this is actually sports film light, you will see the difference between a Teflon and Kraft paper. So it does give a different look as well. All right, and so now before we start talking about these two topics, we have a poll question, I believe.
Yes, we do. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Our first poll question today is, do you have a quick slip pad protector on the bottom plan of your heat press? And we'll just wait a couple more seconds, get a few more people voting. Juliette, it looks like almost everybody has a quick slip pad protector on their heat press.
Awesome. That is great. And I will get into a little bit of why it's important to have one. If everybody has one, they probably realize that it does prolong the life of your bottom platen. But I'm glad to hear that everybody has one, and we're going to show a demonstration on it as well for those who may not have one. Before we do that, though, I did jump ahead a little bit. Got a little confused with my slides here. So before we get onto the Teflon pillows and Print Perfect pad, I do have really, really quick videos on how to use Teflon sheets and cover sheets. I mean, everybody pretty much probably knows how to do that, but I do want to show them. So if you have any employees that aren't familiar with using them, this way you have a better understanding of how to do so. So they're super quick, and like I said, these can be found on our product pages of our website or on YouTube themselves. I'm just going to review this one on Teflon cover sheets real quick. They're only 33 seconds, as you can see. The Teflon cover sheet prevents any dyes or residue from getting onto the heating element or garment during application. Teflon is our most popular cover sheet because it's reusable and can be easily cleaned with a damp cloth. It also leaves a smooth semi-gloss finish or on certain types of heat transfer materials. Super easy, just put it right on top of the transfer and peel. And then the next one we're going to watch is Kraft paper. Another really quick video. The Kraft paper cover sheet prevents any dyes or residue from getting onto the heating element or garment during application. Kraft paper is most commonly used with CAD cut material since it reduces the amount of static that can generate between the mylar carrier and heating element. It also leaves a matte finish on certain types of heat transfer material. And what I'm doing is just reading off what I'm saying in the video since you guys can't hear video as well. It's just easier for me to read off what I say in these quick videos. Pretty easy. So those are essential, and like I said, every time you lock your press down, you're going to end up using one of them because you want to protect your investment, your heat press machine, plus your transfer, and your garment. So you most likely have one of those in your shop. Okay, so now back on track with Teflon pillows and Print Perfect pads. Okay, so the poll question, I think we asked, was it the quick slip pad protector that we just asked, or was it the other one about the, have you ever had part of all your design not stick to the garment? I think we asked the wrong question.
We asked about the quick slip pad protector.
Okay.
Did you want to get a poll? We can pull that poll out, Juliet.
Yeah, let's get another one.
All right.
It's not on my topic.
Let's do it.
Okay. Sorry, guys. We're just going to go. We'll just ask a lot of questions.
So the next poll question is, have you ever had part of your design not stick to the garment?
Yep. Have you ever had part of your design, like your transfer, not stick at all, or even part of the garment is the question, basically.
And it looks like 82% have had that experience.
Okay. And, you know, that is one of the #1 calls that we get when it comes to if there's an issue. And it's not, you know, that, I mean, it could totally be avoided as long as you know that you have the right accessories, if you have them on hand when you're trying to do the job, as well as if you're using them correctly and which ones to use. And when it comes to uneven pressure, temperature, and time, which are the 3 key factors, temperature, time, and pressure, you know, they all have to work together in a particular product. When you're using something, it has to be on the right, you know, temperature, time, and pressure. If something's not working, then that may be the issue. But if we find that you are heat applying everything correctly, then it may be actually something causing uneven pressure, which will throw off the temperature, which you could imagine will either not work with application of the entire design or just part of it. So these 2 products, these accessories, are also very essential in your shop. And the first one, the Teflon pillow, well, what does that really do? Because they both, you know, create an even pressure throughout the transfer. But how do they do that? Well, the Teflon pillow is actually Teflon, like the Teflon cover sheet with the foam core in the middle. And it creates like a flat, even surface. So if you have any heavy seams, buttons, or zippers, which are what usually causes uneven pressure, they actually like fall flat into the pillow. So it's kind of nice if you have to heat apply around something that you can't avoid by lifting up an elevated area, which you would use a print perfect pad. Like say if you had to heat apply between two buttons on a baseball jersey, you may want to use a Teflon pillow because that transfer is going right between those buttons, and you need to use it right up to the edge of the button versus a print perfect pad, which you have a limited area that you have to make sure your transfer fits into, and it actually elevates the area. So that's the primary difference between the two in regards to creating that even pressure throughout the transfer, which is an even surface. The Teflon pillow is very durable, but so is a print perfect pad. They pretty much last for a long time. Teflon pillow is easy to clean, and it's great for mesh or reversible jerseys, meaning if you have a mesh jersey, it has a bunch of holes in it. So if you insert the Teflon pillow, then you have adhesive that potentially could go through those holes, and it could heat apply to the other side of the jersey, and that would just heat apply it shut. So most commonly you'll use a Teflon pillow because it's just quickly, you just throw it right in there, you're not really worried about a certain area, and it slides and glides very nicely into your shirts, and you just heat apply and don't have to worry about heat sealing it shut. Reversible jerseys, you may have an application on the other side you don't want it to touch, and you need something that's quick and slick that would just go right into the garment. So Teflon pillows are usually what would be used. And they come in all different sizes, both of them do. They come in popular sizes, but you can fit them, we suggest Teflon pillows for legs and sleeves, and it's a longer shape and a little bit thinner, but it can be fit in whatever you're heat applying, as long as it it could be an odd job or a weird pocket that you need to fit something into. So the Teflon pillows, you can try it with that. Perfect pads, what's nice about them though is that they're easy to cut. They're just rubber silicone, so you can cut them with scissors or a blade, and you can stack them. So say you're heat applying a bunch of hats on a cap press, and even though you have an interchangeable platen that fits like a high profile cap, but it may be just one of those weird caps that you can't get tight enough on that press, then you may need to stack a bunch of print perfect pads underneath. And usually what I'll do is I'll take that long one there that you see in the picture and cut however many I need to stack on top of each other, and kind of like put them on top of the platen, and then that creates the extra width that I need to create that even pressure throughout the transfer when I heat apply. So when I say they're cuttable and stackable, that's what I mean about that. So you can buy them and keep them as whole and use them in different ways, or you can buy an extra set and cut them up if you heat apply a lot of weird things, pockets and hats that may have they don't fit snug on a press. CAD prints transfers are usually suggested to use most commonly with perfect pads. You can use CAD prints transfers, which are digital transfers. They're a solvent ink printed on a printable media that you can do in however many colors you want, unlimited colors, one transfer. And most commonly you'll use those with perfect pads because you do want, that they either call for a firm or a light pressure, and the pressure needs to be pretty accurate with it. With a Teflon pillow, you'll notice that if you press a lot of shirts, that, especially if you are familiar with throwing the Teflon pillow on the bottom platen and throwing a shirt on top of it, if you do a lot of t-shirts or anything like that, that would, with like a little baby, like onesies or anything small that has seams that are closer together, you may just like throw that pillow on the bottom platen and throw the onesie on top, for example. And you may not be able to do that with a print perfect pad. So the CAD prints transfers usually will call for a firmer surface, so you may want to use one or the other depending on the job that you're doing. So now we're going to watch a quick video on how to use these products. First we're going to watch the Teflon pillows. Teflon pillows help prevent marks on transfers heat applied near heavy seams, buttons, and zippers. The pillows allow for an even surface on consistent temperature and pressure throughout the transfer. Teflon pillows are available in 5 popular sizes that can be used in a variety of ways. Simply insert the pillow, adjust the pressure, and heat apply for successful results. And so I just inserted a pillow into this hoodie, and this is like one of those heavyweight hoodies that I have pockets, I have heavy neck seams, arm seams, and I was able to heat apply all different surfaces without any problems. Now, Print Perfect pads. Print Perfect pads are designed to elevate the print area on the garment so you can avoid items that cause uneven pressure, like metal zippers and heavy seams. They come in 3 different sizes to fit commonly decorated areas. Use a Print Perfect pad to achieve perfect pressure throughout the heat application every time. So they're kind of used very similar, and we saw the differences. So now we're going to talk about, that question about the adhesion issues. Everybody, pretty much had that problem before. Well, you may relate to some of these different types of garments that commonly cause. This is straight from our testing department that tells us, these are the most common types of garments that cause uneven pressures that you would use the Teflon pillow or Print Perfect pad for the resolution. So all of these garments can be successfully heat applied with a Teflon pillow or Print Perfect pad. The pillow or pad should be used inside the garment versus laying the garment over the pillow, especially on mesh or reversible jerseys, which the Teflon pillow is most popular. And I explained, why the mesh jersey from the holes sticking out. You will notice that some of these descriptions say yoke in them, the word yoke, and what yoke means is a piece of fabric that is located towards the upper back that stretches over the shoulders. Like the hockey jersey has a yoke on it, the football jersey has a yoke, and that would cause uneven pressure, especially if you're heat applying, on the shoulders or names on the back. So you'd want to use either a Teflon pillow or Print Perfect pad to create an even pressure throughout that transfer. Sheer shells with multiple seams would cause issues. Narrow cut t-shirts, the reason being is because that you can't get the seam off of the platen by dressing it because they're still on there, or you're heat applying an area near that seam always because they're so small. Leotards and swimwear, shorts, jackets, pants, and wrestling singlets. Those are all garments that would cause that. So we already asked the question, do you have a quick slip pad protector? And majority of you do. So the next set of accessories that we're going to talk about are heat press accessories. These are accessories that you use directly with your heat press. So we do have, the quick slip pad lower platen protector, which is the same Teflon material that's used in the Teflon sheet. It fits over your rubber silicone, which you can imagine if you just slide your hand over it itself, that a shirt would get caught on it all the time. So it creates like a slick surface, but it also prolongs the life of your bottom platen. You could imagine rubbing fabric over all the time. That rubber silicone eventually will wear down like an eraser on the end of a pencil. So it does prolong the life of that as well. That will end up saving you hundreds of dollars. So before we talk about all these different products, I want to show a quick video on the quick slip pad protector since it's the subject that we started out with. The quick slip lower platen protector is made of Teflon with elastic corners. The elastic corners allow for a snug fit. The Teflon protects the rubber silicone of the lower platen from wear and tear. The quick slip platen protector can easily be cleaned with a damp cloth and provides a slick surface for loading and unloading garments. So simple, and pretty much it is an essential also accessory that you would use with your heat press at all times. Pretty much every single heat press that we sell is always sold with a quick slip lower platen protector. So that's probably why everybody has one, which means that we're doing our jobs to make sure that you guys, have what you need to start out with. So here's some examples of interchangeable platens. Here we have ones for your press itself. These are for these ones over here. a book bag, for example, anything that you need that's smaller that you can't either dress the platen, meaning putting the shirt on the platen, actually, through the body of the platen, for threadability. So you're able to thread the garment on there and heat apply without, so you don't have to use some of these actual accessories like a Teflon pillow you may not need to use, because you can actually dress the platen itself and create an even surface for heat application. You'll actually see, we're going to watch a video on the flexible application pad, and I will show you how I use that platen in a book bag. So we'll see how to use that, and then what the flexible application pad does. You can also use custom platens for gloves, socks. We have, custom platens are pretty much any shape that you want us to make that you need to accomplish your job. Something like this, we've had one made for shoes. You can heat apply on shoes. So you can imagine what you could fit on these smaller platens and then mass produce. So you don't have to do one at a time. You can do several depending on what you have us make it for. Standard prices for custom platens through Hotronics start around $225 up to 16 by 20, and then anything else we could quote you on. Interchangeable platens in the middle here for cap press. I had mentioned before that you may have like a trucker cap that has a really high profile, so you need to use this really big wide one here, or you may have a low profile. So you're always looking for a snug fit for even pressure, so you have successful heat application. Heat press machine kit, the 3 essentials for successful heat applying: time, temperature, and pressure. And if you don't know your temperature is correct, you may need to check it out once in a while, depending on what type of machine you're using. So we do sell heat press machine test kits you may not be aware of. You get 2 tests in a kit, and basically it's just 5 strips you put in a corner, 1 in the middle, and it tells you if you have accurate temperature throughout your upper platen. And then now to the flexible application pad, which is kind of one of those accessories that you don't hear too much about, and you're always like, I wonder what that does. It's kind of weird. It's rubbery. It's like, it reminds you of the bologna things that you use to open up jars and stuff. So we're going to watch a video about that and see what it's used for. The flexible application pad protects items such as zippers, buttons, and snaps from coming in direct contact with the heating element. Because it's made of rubber silicone, it can help prevent such fasteners from melting if they cannot be avoided during heat application. The flexible application pad will also leave a slight texture that resembles a screen print finish on certain materials. So it kind of has dual purposes. It's like, okay, I have this bag, and it's got this plastic zipper on there, and I know if I use craft paper or a cover sheet, the heat is going to be too extreme and it's going to melt. So, but I can't avoid it, so what do I use? You could use the flexible application pad. Sometimes you may need to heat apply it twice, I've been told. I've never had that problem, but because you can imagine if it's not melting a zipper, then potentially the heat, it just sounds, is the heat off? So you may need to bring it down a couple times, but it does get the job done, so you can avoid melting any of those fasteners that may potentially melt if you cannot avoid it from coming in direct contact with your heating element. But another popular reason why they're used is simply because it leaves that texture. It's not an actual texturizing cover sheet, but it does have a texture to it that it does leave on certain materials that screen print finish. That looks nice. So the next heat press accessories that we're going to talk about are ones that you may use all the time, or you may not even know are aware of them, or you just were too afraid to use them, such as like solvent. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about each one of these. We're going to watch a video, and I'm going to tell you how I use the letter remover solvent, because that's one of the most popular questions that I get about that particular accessory is how do you use it. So we're going to start out with the layout boards and pre-mass tape and thermo tape. Those usually are used all together, or they can be used separately, but the video pretty much explains how to use those, so we're going to start out with that. Thermo tape dispenser is pretty much just holds that blue thermo tape. So you use thermal tape to keep pre-cut letters and numbers in position when heat applying. Thermal tape is extra helpful for small letters like this pocket size. A tape dispenser is also available. Pre-masked tape can be used in the same way and works great with polytwill. So you're basically making pre-cut letters pre-spaced. The layout boards make placing pre-cut letters and numbers or on a straighter arced path easy. So it's just a layout board that helps you lay things out on a path. It gives you the spacing between them, or you can use tape, and like what I was showing, I was pre-aligning stuff on a desk so you could have somebody else, if you buy a lot of pre-cuts from us, and you have especially smaller letters, pocket size are made out of flock, so those tend to like slide a lot. So if you just want to hold them down, you can tape them one at a time, or you can do what I did, a bunch of them in one line. We also have here a storage box. If you did not know that those existed, storage boxes will hold pre-cut letters or numbers, or any small, if you got a bunch of small things that you need to keep in place for storage. Storage boxes come in 32 sections to hold anywhere from 5/8 of an inch up to 3 inches, 12 sections which will hold up to 6-inch letters or numbers, and then 6 sections which hold up to 8 or 10-inch letters. So you can get a variety of different size inserts to hold all different types of pre-cuts, which is great storage for those items. Now let's talk about letter remover solvent. Solvent itself is a product that can remove thermofilm and thermoflock, I believe. Yeah, thermofilm and thermoflock and thermogrip. There's only 3 that will allow you to remove of all of our products, and it's best if it's used within 24 hours. If you don't use it within 24 hours, then you may have gotten the actual vinyl off, but the adhesive may stay in place. So the key is to get it off as soon as the mistake is made. So that's why it's kind of something, depending on what you do the most of, you either have it in-house and you have it on your shelf, or you don't. It does have to ship ground because it is considered hazmat, so it comes ground only. So that's kind of nice to have it ahead of time. That's why if you do find yourself having either customers coming in and saying, I have this name and it was done wrong and I need to take it off, or if you find that you may have made a mistake in your shop yourself, you want to have this on hand if you want to remove film, flock, or grip. And the way that I use it is use a glass eyedropper, because it is pretty, it'll melt plastic. So glass eyedropper, protective gloves. I find it's easier to actually flip the shirt inside out and put it on, so it absorbs through the garment and directly hits the adhesive. So it starts to actually remove the adhesive versus just the surface vinyl. And then, so what I do is I take one of those like turkey roasters, but not like a real metal one, like a plastic throwaway cheap one, foil turkey roasters, disposable ones, and I use that kind of like to dress the shirt. So you dress the shirt, you put the big turkey roaster inside the shirt, it kind of fills up and spreads everything out nicely, and then you just have your layer, kind of, in the actual bowl of the turkey thing. And then you take your glass dropper and you start dropping the solvent through the other side, and you wait, and then you start to see it either come up on its own, or you can peel it depending on how long it's been on the shirt. And then you do want to wash it afterwards before you heat apply over it again. So I find it's easier to actually insert, either a bowl or some type of container. I suggest just a disposable foil tin pan, basically, is what it is, any size. And so you're not, because it spreads like crazy. As soon as you put one little drop, you'll see it start to just spread really fast. So you don't need a lot. A little goes a long way. It does tend to evaporate quickly if you don't put the lid on tight. So that's another thing that you want to make sure if you store it, that you put the lid on tight. If you put the lid on tight, it should last you long enough. But those are, just quick ways to use the product itself. And I don't have a video on that one, but I just thought I'd share my little tip and trick with you. Okay, so now we're going to start talking about other accessories that, aren't they're essential for if you have cutters, or if you do applique sewing, or rhinestones if you're looking into getting into rhinestones. But we're going to talk about those categories. Before we do, I want to know how many of you own a cutter or embroidery equipment?
We'll close the poll in just a second here. Juliette, it looks like 77% own cutter or embroidery equipment.
Okay. Which is a good amount. And, you know, and if you're looking into getting into it, I mean, of course, we'll cut it for you, but potentially you may want to add that piece of equipment to your business, or simply you just want to get into rhinestones. So the next topics will be pretty beneficial to you. So first, roll-fed cutters, which are plotters that you feed CAD cut material through a friction-fed material through actual cutter through the back. And what it does is a blade cuts these CAD cut materials. And you need some essentials. The essentials are Easy Weeder, because the Easy Weeder helps you take away all those negative areas. As you can see in the design with the Easy Weeder, it's on a CAD cut mylar carrier, and it keeps everything pre-spaced versus if you were to buy them pre-cut, you'd have to lay them out yourself. So an Easy Weeder is essential. Tweezers, I feel, are essential because if you've ever accidentally weeded the wrong thing, then you know what it's like to put it back where it's supposed to be, especially if it's a very small dot of the I or you know, period at the end of a sentence. So any small pieces, tweezers, are really essential for that. That helps you either manually place them or simply if you just like to pick things off with tweezers. But I feel Easy Weeders, you know, are most commonly used. Of course, blades. You always need blades. Whenever you're working with a cutter, things need to work in harmony together. And that would be, you know, the cutter needs to work obviously, but you need to have sharp blades and a cutting protection strip. The cutting protection strip, which runs, it's a piece of plastic that runs parallel to the blade if you cut too deep. If you accidentally send something to your machine and material's not on it yet, it just kind of helps, you know, the machine from cutting into a metal, which the machine's made out of. So the protection strip, though, doesn't last forever. It's, you know, it could get gashes in it. So if there's no flat surface on your cutting protection strip, if you accidentally cut that blade into it too many times by accident, then you will have to replace it, and they are inexpensive. They're fairly inexpensive. All the cutters that we sell, all the cutting strips are under $15. So, you know, that's something that you may want to always have in your shelf along with blades. A blade holder isn't necessarily essential. It comes with the machine, but depending how much you use your machine, it's recommended to replace your blade holders every 2 to 5 years. And it's not just some kind of gimmick that we're trying to get you to buy all these blade holders. The actual blade holders themselves inside have these ball bearings in them. And the ball bearings are, you know, they have oils in them and stuff like that to keep everything running smoothly. But especially if you cut where there's a lot of fibers in the air, or if you're cutting a lot of flock material, or just you've been using your cutter for so many years that those ball bearings, they wear down, just like the wheel of a roller skate does, and you have to replace those too. So the more the ball bearings weigh down, you just want to replace it. You can't really fix them. You can try to prolong the life of them by putting like oil in there and taking your blade and pulling it in and out and trying to, you know, grab any of those fibers or debris and then wipe it off with a paper towel every time you do so. But they do typically need to be replaced every 2 to 5 years depending on how often you use your machine. So that's an accessory that we sell also as extra of for you. So if you have a machine, you may want to get one of those on your shelves as well. Now, carbide blades and Dura blades. Really, what's the difference between those two? Dura blades are just blades in general. For example, a GX24, they're made, you know, they're blades. They're either 45 or 60 degree blade. The 45 degree blade you use for general cutting, you general size names and numbers, like anything 1 inch or higher. 60 degree blades you would want to use to cut more fashionable material that you're going to cut, like very intricate small designs, small text, very curvy, things like that, because the blade, the degree's higher, it needs to make those sharp turns. So the 45 degree and the 60 degree comes in both regular blades or carbide blades. The carbide blades are made with a metal that lasts longer. It's kind of a heavier metal, like twill blades, for example. If you cut twill, it's made out of a heavier metal that lasts longer. So if you're looking for a blade that lasts a little bit longer on the machine, then you may want to invest in carbide blades. They do cost a little bit more, but that's the investment that you may want to make if you find yourself going through a lot of blades. So with roll-fed cutters, then there's flatbed cutters. Flatbed cutters, oh, we were supposed to watch a video. I'm going to go back. Jumping ahead again. We got another really, really fast video, and you can watch my weeding capabilities. 48 seconds here. So I like to have weeding tests with my friends. So just a contest to see how fast everybody can weed. But the Easy Weeder is a handy tool used to quickly take away the negative areas from CAD Cut or CAD Color graphics. These are the areas you don't want to heat transfer onto the garment. The sharp tip will pull away any material on even the most detailed designs. Tweezers are also a great way to weed excess material from your design. And they make placing small pieces even easier with their curved tip. So that's just an example of what the Easy Weeder does. Quick video, so if you're not familiar with it or if you need to show somebody else how to do it, you can watch that video. Now we can go to the flatbed cutters. Flatbed cutters primarily are made, like we sell the Eyeline 300, which, you know, will cut vinyl, but they're primarily made to cut twill. And the benefit of having a flatbed cutter versus a roll-fed cutter that has motor power to cut twill is the ability to cut kiss cut. And kiss cut is when you put several layers of pressure-sensitive twill on top of each other, so you can cut one layer at a time, and everything is pre-spaced. So poly twill or applique fabrics need to be sewn. If you're an embroiderer, you put it in your embroidery machine, and a sew disc would come with it. It would sew out an outline, and then you put your twill down, and it would sew down the twill. Well, if you're cutting one layer at a time, and you do a lot of applique, and you have a lot of high production, then you're probably going to want a flatbed cutter, especially so you can accomplish kiss cut, because kiss cut saves sewing time by 40% because you don't have to stop in between each color to actually either spray it or peel off the protective off the pressure-sensitive material and lay it in place each time. So that's the general purpose of a flatbed cutter, is to cut that thicker material. So the essential accessories for flatbed cutters are, of course, the Easy Weeder, the tweezers, and we discussed the reasons why those are important. Blade holders and blades, we all know the reasons why. But some of the unique accessories to flatbed cutters are the removable tray and the adhesive sheets. So why are those important that you may want to have on your shelves or you want extras of? Well, the removable tray helps you produce, because you have to load this by sheet. It's not roll fed, so you can't just put a big huge roll in the back and let it feed and cut as much as you want. You have to cut it down in sheets. So you could be loading one tray full of material, kiss cut especially if you're up to 3 layers deep. That takes time and you're trying to mass produce. So you have one tray being loaded and then one tray being cut. And then you just kind of switch them out, like pizzas in a hot oven. And then the adhesive sheets, there are actually different tacks that we offer. The adhesive sheets come in low tacks, ultra low tacks, heavy tacks, and they're used for different things. You may need to use like a lower tack if you're cutting vinyl, especially if you're cutting CAD cut vinyl. If you ever put CAD cut on an adhesive sheet, you can imagine how sticky it is. You have to remove your tray to actually get it off because you don't want to bend your tray because it could throw everything off. So you may want to use like a lower tack for cutting transfer vinyls, or a heavy tack for cutting twills or felts, heavier materials, even some thinner leathers you can cut with these machines. So it depends on what you're cutting that you'd want to use the different types of adhesive sheets. The number one question that we get with adhesive sheets is which side goes up. There's actual sticker on the adhesive sheets that tells you that stripe side goes up. So just wanted to throw that out there because it's a popular topic. You know, this is even a phone call if you're wondering. But stripe side up, and you just, you know, lay it right down on your tray. And that removable tray shows you an example of that. Okay. The next slide that we're going to show is an accessory for all you applique sewers out there. We sell light tack spray. You may or not be aware of it. So light tack spray is what you can use on the back of a twill that does not have any pressure-sensitive adhesive, or sticky twill, I like to call it, or sticky adhesive. So because you do have to place it in the placement line that your embroidery machine sews out, you have to have something, either a sewer's iron or you're going to use a tack spray of some sort. So we do carry a tack spray, you know, to help you with that. And then if you've ever wondered what applique sewing is or how does that work, I just wanted to show you a quick link on our site. Under the Distress Applique and Flock product page, under the video tab, is a quick video that shows you how to sew applique, and it shows using this tack spray. But of course you can always Google it or YouTube it, and a lot of videos will come up. There's videos out there on how to sew overlap split fronts, to, you know, even creating overlap split front sew files, and sewing all different kinds of applique. And now we're going to talk about rhinestones. Rhinestones is fairly new to, you know, Stahl. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but Stahl's just came out with actually selling rhinestones themselves, and rhinestone transfers are already made. And with rhinestone comes the accessories to use them. And you know, you get a bunch of stones in a bag, but how do you do it? So there's a lot of rhinestone accessories just, you know, geared towards that product, as you can see. One being rhinestone tweezers. Well, what's the difference between, you know, tweezers that you just told us about and these rhinestone tweezers? The main difference is it has a shovel on the end, which is kind of helpful because if you're working with a bunch of stones, you'll be thankful that you have a little shovel or even a tray. This rhinestone tray here, start circling these, are very helpful for keeping all those rhinestones in place. If you're working on a surface, you know, you definitely need something to keep your work area clean and the different colors of stones separated. So, and we are going to watch a video on how to do this too, just so you know it's coming up. So it's a little bit of a longer video because there's more to it, but we'll watch that one and I'll explain what I'm doing in it. So we have tweezers, we have rhinestone tray, pretty self-explanatory. We have a rhinestone brush, which after you're done cutting into the stencil material, which is a thicker material, it's about 15 mil thick, and you cut a bunch of holes in it. We have application instructions that tell you, you know, the size stones that we sell, which size holes to make the files for. So you would actually go into Graphic Art program and make a bunch of sew file or a bunch of circles to make the rhinestone transfer file itself for the cutter to cut it out. So you actually put this through a roll-fed cutter, and the cutter cuts out a bunch of circles, and then into this rhinestone material, and then you put it on this backer board here, and the backer board you cut down into, you know, fairly close to the actual design, and then you take the rhinestones and you brush them all in the stones, and then you take this transfer tape and you put it on top of the stones so you can take the stones out of the actual material, and then you can put it, you know, you squeegee on the transfer tape nice and flush, and then you're able to peel it off. So they all have its purpose. They're all necessary, I think, for creating rhinestones. You need them all. So if you're looking into starting out making your own rhinestone transfers, I would just, you know, visit the site and go right to the Rhinestone Accessories and get them all, which I'll show you while we're on that subject. Where to find all these accessories that I'm talking about. You can see here on this tab on the site, it tells you where all these accessories are. You can get into heat printing accessories, printers. Here's rhinestones. So fairly simple to find on the website stahls.com. So now that brings us to the rhinestone video that we're going to watch, which I'll demonstrate on actually cutting rhinestone material and creating a rhinestone heat transfer design. And it is a 5-minute video. but it'll go fast. This one I'm just going to talk it through. So I'm just loading the material onto, this is a GX24 roll-fed cutter. Of course, I have a sharp blade in there. I'm using a 60-degree blade. We have tech sheets on our website that tell you which downforce to use for each blade type, which offset, things that, people who have cutters need to know. I created a template in, I actually use Corel Draw, and I used the size circles that the application instructions told me to use for the size stone I was going to make the transfer with. And then you send it to your cutter, and your cutter is going to start cutting a bunch of circles. So I cut down my transfer material, and I tried to make it as easy for production, as I could. I put weed borders around it. This is actually a multicolored design, so it kind of shows you how to make a multicolor instead of a one color, which is kind of nice. So each layer is its own transfer, each color of stone. So I'm starting to put this down on the backer board here, which is like a foam core board. And I use a squeegee just to bring it down. And then I'm just going to take a blade and cut it down, because if you use transfer tape and you want to cut the you want to cut it up to the edge of the rhinestone stencil material, because the transfer tape could potentially lift the backer board if you use the transfer a lot, the stencil itself. I want to make sure I have the transfer tape big enough to accommodate all of my layers, all my colors, not just each individual little section. I just pour in my color, and I start just swiping back and forth with my rhinestone brush, and they just kind of pop into place. Nice and easy. And as you can see, why you would want to have a rhinestone tray, it not only does it make it easier to put them back into the bag, but it keeps your work surface a lot cleaner. And even if that tray seems kind of big, I mean, it doesn't weigh a lot, but if you accidentally, knocked a bag of stones, you want a bigger tray just in case, so it doesn't go flying all over the place. So I just shook them back into the bag, and that's a pretty small bag. That's pretty talented right there. So if I needed to make 50 of these transfers, because I have the rhinestone stencil material and backer board cut right up to the edge of that rhinestone stencil material, I really don't have to worry about that transfer tape sticking to that backer board, peeling up any pieces of it so it gets on my transfers. So I have a nice clean transfer. I just put that aside for now, and I start on my next color, which is basically the same steps, just bringing them in, pouring the stones, using the brush, cleaning up my mess, one at a time. So you may want more than one tray. It depends on how much you produce. You may want, if you have multicolors, you may want to have several trays, several of these accessories, so you can have, different people on each color of stone for each layer of transfer, and then maybe one person to assemble them. Kind of like a assembly line. Using the squeegee, and that really helps, get the pressure of the tape on the top of the stones. You have a very small surface, so, it's better than using a fingernail or a finger to push that down. And then there you have it. Just bring it in my shirt, pop it in there, get a little preheat going on, get it nice and hot and the moisture out of there. And that transfer tape's pretty sticky, so you have to be careful, gentle with it, but it's pretty sticky, so you don't have to worry too much about those stones, flying off or anything. So you can make them ahead of time. And then I'm using a heat eraser, if you noticed, because this is a cool peel or a cold peel product, so I want to speed it up, so I'm going to use a heat eraser to try to absorb some of that heat so I don't have to wait as long. And then you just peel off the tape. Simple as that. Now, making the rhinestone transfer design is a different story. You have to have, a graphic art program of some sort that can make vector lines so you can send it to your cutter. And I'm actually going to do a webinar on that April 19th, I believe. And it's going to be, actually, we're going to premiere a bunch of videos on how to make rhinestone transfer designs in Corel Draw. I'll focus on, custom designs and fonts, and we'll premiere those videos on a blog, on the webinar on that date, and we'll post them onto the website as well, so you have that information. So keep an eye out for that, because that's coming up. So I just wanted to thank everybody for attending. Do we have any questions about anything today, Jody?
We do actually have some questions. Vince would like to know from the beginning of the webinar, what causes the platen mark to arrive on a shirt after heat pressing?
They actually, like, say for example, if you're heat applying like a red T-shirt, and you heat apply like the actual outline of the platen, it usually fades away once it cools. It could be actually the substrate you're heat applying is actually melting. It depends on the actual, what you're doing. But typically, that heat is just, when you're preheating especially, you'll notice all the moisture coming out of a shirt. And it's just the temperature change on the dyes that's made in the shirt. Usually they just fade away after it cools. If you're talking about actual marks of seams that are causing the shirt to almost become shiny, it's because there is not an even pressure, or there's nothing protecting that seam from being smushed, basically, and it's actually disrupting the fibers, causing that sheen that you can't get rid of. And to prevent that, you'd want to use a Teflon pillow to create even pressure, or a perfect pad to elevate that area to completely avoid any heavy seams or anything that would cause that.
Okay, and then as far as the rhinestones go, what about software for creating rhinestone temples like WinPC Sign 2012? Do you recommend that?
We actually don't sell any software that actually makes rhinestone templates. There's a lot of them out there. They are typically very expensive. I don't really have any suggestions on which type of software to purchase, because I actually, and we sell rhinestone transfers already made as well. We have some stock items, and we made all ours by hand, honestly. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. There's programs that you can buy with fonts already made, but like I said, they're typically very expensive for what you get. So what I'm going to focus on in the next webinar that I do in April is how to do it in Corel if you were doing it from scratch, because there's some ways around it as well. But if you want to invest in some of those rhinestone template programs, I mean, they're well worth it. If you're going to make a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. And then what type of foam board did you use? Myra wanted to know if it's something you can get like at a craft shop, or is it different from...
It's not really too much different from what you could find at a craft shop, but it is a foam board that we did some research on, that we found that works best with the actual stencil material. So it's I want to say maybe a little over a quarter of an inch thick. I don't know exact specs, but it's a nice foam board. It's not flimsy.
Right. And Juliet, I think that's all for the questions today. I haven't received any since that last one.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again for attending. We really appreciate you, taking the time out of the day to hear what we have to say. You never know what you're getting into when you sign up for these things. So I hope that you learned a little bit about, accessories that you may have, or accessories that you may need to help your business, so you can successfully heat apply. Most importantly, when you have to. So it's not like you're missing something that you needed, yesterday. So you have it on your shelves ready to go. Majority of the accessories that we talked about are under $50 today. So hopefully you learned something about that. And the next webinar we're going to be doing is setting your heat printing business up for success. And that's going to be on March 29th at 2 o'clock. So if you haven't signed up for that, go ahead and do so. And if you come up with any comments or questions about today's webinar, feel free to email us at info@greatgarmentgraphics.com, and we'll be sure to reply back and give you what you need to know.
Great. Thank you so much, Juliet.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.